If you call yourself an MMA fan, but did not watch the recent UFC on Fox event this past Saturday, I have a question to ask. What is wrong with you? I'm going to give you my review, my personal review, of the matches that we saw this past Saturday night for UFC Fight Night, Machida versus Rockhold. 4, slightly more than 4 actually, hours of some of the best MMA in the world. UFC tends to put on pretty good cards for Fox. This one was like pay-per-view stacked, almost pay-per-view stacked, from top to bottom. Even the online prelims were pretty good. I did not get to see those, unfortunately, but I did get to see all 8 fights that took place on Fox. The prelims were even on Fox this time around. And tell you what, I probably would have paid, if I had the satellite or anything and the money as well, I probably would have paid the $55 or $65 or whatever UFC is charging for pay-per-views nowadays. I would have paid that much for this. It was that good. But you know what? We got for free. At least in the US. I don't know about everywhere else. Probably got for free everywhere else too. So the prelims kicked off in the bantamweight division as Takeya Mizugaki took on undefeated rising prospect Aljamain Sterling. I picked Mizugaki to win. Safe to say, I am a terrible prognosticator. Mizugaki was dominated the entire fight. Sterling was incredible. Very strong wrestling game. Not bad on his striking. And third round became the first person in UFC history to get a submission with an arm triangle choke while on the bottom. Yeah, he was under Mizugaki and he put on the arm triangle choke and won the match. That is a first, and that's pretty impressive. Sterling actually looked very, very solid, and Mizugaki is a very hard fighter to finish. I mean, if you finish him, you're definitely something great. I mean, obviously Dominic Cruz finished him, but speaking about Sterling, that was amazing. Not really much you can say about Mizugaki. I mean, he had a faint chance of a title shot, and Cruz just obliterated it out of him. And Sterling pretty much choked him out of any hope he has of maybe getting back into even striking distance of it. So, I don't know what to tell you about that, if you're a fan of Mizugaki, and I kind of am myself. Sterling, he's got a great camp. He's part of the Longo Serra camp, which is, of course, where Chris Weidman, the middleweight champion, he's from. There are a couple of those fighters fighting on the card tonight, or Saturday night. Of course, they all poked fun at their teammate, Ali Akinta. No, nobody in New Jersey was booing them. They had to have some fun with that. I thought that was kind of funny. He'll never live it down. But Sterling, going back to the fight night stuff, Sterling looked very good. He's going to get a pretty good bantamweight, I think top 10, obviously, in his next fight. That should be very, very good. See how he stacks up against some of the better competition. I think he's a rising force in that division. I mean, maybe a year or two, he probably could be a title contender. I don't want to see him get rushed, but bantamweight's not a division he's gonna have to worry about that getting rushed. We had another Serra Longo fighter competing the very next match as John Vellante took on Ultimate Fighter Season 19 light heavyweight winner Corey Anderson. And Vellante looked pretty damn solid, and Anderson looked pretty damn dumb. Vellante was landing some of the meanest leg kicks that I've honestly seen. I mean, this was like reminiscent of watching Rafael dos Anjos kick Nate Diaz's leg into oblivion this past December. And Anderson was not bothering to check the leg kicks until very late in the second round. And by then it was too late. His leg was definitely taking a beating. You could see it was affecting him. His striking wasn't as effective. His general defending was not as good. Vellante just put a beating on him. And then pretty much knocked him out on his feet. I mean, caught him with a really nice punch about right here or so. Actually, it's more like right here, around the temple. And Anderson was out on his feet. The ref stopped it right there. So, big win by Vellante. I don't know if he's going to get like a top 10, top 15, but he's going to get somebody who's on the fringe. He's got potential to be a good ranked, obviously fun to watch fighter. Anderson, it's back to the drawing board. He's got to learn to, you got to check those leg kicks. I mean, you get kicked in the leg enough like that, and it just screws you up. I mean, again, you saw what happened to Nate Diaz when Rafael dos Anjos just beat the holy hell out of it, his leg. So, but that one fight of the night, $50,000 a piece. I know there's probably some people who argue that a better fight of the night candidate would have been, or winner I should say, would have been Van Zant versus Herod, but I agree with this. Those are both good fights, but this one won. And you have to remember, Dana White did say at the press conference that a lot of fighters that did not get the official post-fight bonuses were going to get money. They were going to get some bonus checks. So I wouldn't be surprised if Herrig and Van Zant, or at least Van Zant, got another $50,000. And still with the light heavyweights on the undercard. And this shows you how stacked the card was. Ovince St. Preux versus Patrick Cummins. Both pretty well-ranked guys. Both coming off of wins. Although OSP was coming off that huge knockout of Shogun Rua down in Brazil last year. And the big question was, could OSP successfully deal with the wrestling offense of Patrick Cummins, who's an amazing wrestler? I mean, he's a two-time All-American, if I remember correctly. Well, Cummins took him down 3 times, and each time OSP just popped right back up. And then, and I missed this live. I was checking something on my laptop briefly, so I had my head turned away from the TV, and all of a sudden I'm hearing Mike and Joe going off. And I look, and there's Patrick Cummins lying on the ground, and OSP is punching him, and the ref comes in and breaks it up and ends the fight. What happened was, Cummins goes in with a right. I think it was an overhand right. I think he may have clipped OSP. I could be wrong. And OSP comes under, just I think barely afterwards, with a left uppercut. And he knocked Cummins on his ass. And then finished him off. OSP, I don't know who you can give him in the division right now, because of, half of the division is busy or hurt. I know I have seen one place say he should fight Rashad Evans. I wouldn't mind seeing that. That would actually be a very good challenge for OSP. Cummins, I'll get back to OSP in a minute, but Cummins, I like him. He's going to be around, for a few years yet. That probably ended any chance he had of even being a fringe contender. He'll be a ranked guy, but he won't be like title contender. Now, St. Preux, I think with another good couple wins, I think he's in contention for the light heavyweight championship before the end of 2016. And obviously, that kind of hinges on some stuff like, you have 2 big fights coming up in the division. You have, aside from John Jones defending his title against Anthony Johnson in May, you have Gustafsson versus Teixeira, that's in Germany. And then you have Cormier versus Bader on D-Day in New Orleans. And I think this is pretty much a mini tournament to decide who a contender is going to be. I think the winners of those two fights will face each other. So it's hard to tell where OSP goes from here. I'm assuming he'll probably... I wouldn't mind seeing him gain Rashad Evans. We'll see what happens. I wouldn't have mind seeing him face like Jimmy Manoa, but Manoa apparently has a destroyed knee, so we'll find out when he gets back. OSP probably shouldn't wait for that. Give him Evans, yeah. But, of course, all this hinges on can Jones defeat Rumble in May at UFC 187, and if he does, what does he do then? I'm assuming he goes up to heavyweight and fights the winner of Velasquez versus Verdum, especially if it's Velasquez, fights him for the heavyweight championship. He says he only wants to do a couple super fights at heavyweight and fight mostly at light heavyweight. Well, if he runs out of contenders, he might as well just stay at heavyweight. I think it's a terrible idea, but he might as well just do it. Finally, the prelims ended with the lightweights and home state boy Jim Miller against rising star. I wouldn't have said rising star except what happened on Saturday night. Beneil Dariush. Oh my God. I thought Dariush won all 3 rounds. But apparently Miller won the first round, and Miller did pretty good in the first round, but oh my God, Dariush turned it on midway or so through the first, and then in the second round just completely took over. The only reason he didn't finish Miller is because Miller was tough enough to survive that, and I don't know how he did. I mean, if you beat Jim Miller, you're definitely on the good stuff, and if you finish Jim Miller, you're definitely in for something huge. Dariush didn't finish him, but he destroyed him in the second and third rounds. I mean, that was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Dariush is going to probably get somebody pretty decent and probably a fringe guy in the top 15 or just outside top 15. Miller, don't know what to tell you. He's a fun fighter. I like watching him fight. He's not a contender. He isn't. Every time he gets even, and before, it's like even when he got close, he would just get hit with a really good fighter and just get sent to the back. Now he can't even get that close. So, I don't know who you put Miller up against. Probably a low-ranking guy. No, Bleacher Report said Rustam Habilov. That'd be a good fight. Then we went to the main card. Paige Van Zandt versus Felice Herrig in the women's strawweight division. And let me tell you this, Paige Van Zandt is for real. 2 fights in the UFC. She's only 21 years old. She's barely had that many fights. I could put it on both hands and I would have fingers left over. She's the real deal. The comparison, I know, I want to say it was Dana White, but I could be wrong. Comparison was made to Conor McGregor. I wouldn't go that far yet. Give her another fight or two, and then we'll talk comparing her with Conor McGregor. She took Felice Herrig apart. She's the real deal. I mean, she needs some work. I mean, she's not perfect. She could definitely use some work. But she's with a very good camp. She's with Team Alpha Male. They have great guys there. I mean, hell, they got the bantamweight champion. I mean, can't be that bad. The one thing is, I don't want to see her get a title shot against Joanna Jędrzejczyk right away, because who knows how that would turn out. I think it would be too soon. But, they're really... It's a young division. There's no real clear contenders, and Paige has won back-to-back fights. I mean, I guess you give her a shot and hope that if she loses, she has plenty enough time to recover. Otherwise, I'd rather... I mean, if they want to wait on that, give her one more fight, I would rather see her fight Moreno Moroz, who, as we all know, beat Joanna Calderwood in Poland. And Calderwood, I think, should face Herrig. I think the winner has a good chance to bounce back in that fight. That should be a good fight. Featherweight, Max Holloway versus Cub Swanson. Holy everything. What happened to Cub Swanson? I mean, did Frankie Edgar take his soul or something? Because Max Holloway, who's a great fighter, okay, let's not get me wrong. I thought Holloway did a phenomenal job, but Swanson looked bad. Cub Swanson, he did not look like the Cub Swanson we've seen in the past, who was an amazingly good fighter. He had no sense of urgency. He was getting beat up like you wouldn't believe. Holloway's got phenomenal movement. I mean, he was moving around like crazy. I thought he was very good. He was very good just in that department alone. He was picking his shots. You know, he was just causing all sorts of trouble for Swanson on his feet. And I thought Swanson was pretty good, or at least decent enough to beat Holloway in that regard. And Swanson's taking this huge beating, and he's just not even showing any sense of urgency, and he winds up getting tapped out in the third. Swanson's day, I mean, if Swanson had any hope of maybe a rematch against Jose Aldo, or maybe finally getting his hands on Conor McGregor, depending on how their fight at 189 in July goes, I mean, if he had any hopes that, you know, he could do that, they're gone. They're absolutely gone. Give him a low-ranked guy. I know some people are saying Cole Miller. Okay, Cole Miller. Holloway, I think, get a big win, or maybe 2 big wins, and he faces either Aldo or McGregor, whoever wins the featherweight championship. But I think if you're going to put him in a fight again, I think the obvious one is the winner of the upcoming fight in the Philippines between Frankie Edgar and Uriah Faber. That'd be phenomenal. That matchup is going to be phenomenal in and of itself. Put Holloway up against the winner, it's going to be a doozy. And I think it would really, I think we actually see how far Holloway can really go. Is he a real strong contender, or is he going to be an outlier? We'll see. I mean, Frankie Edgar completely destroyed Cub Swanson over the course of about 24 minutes and 53 seconds, or whatever it was, combined. So we'll see. Depends on who gets through that match between Edgar and Faber. Then we had the co-main event. We were supposed to have Jacare Souza versus Yoel Romero, and a lot of people thought, well, whoever wins this is obviously going to be the middleweight contender. Well, then, a week before the fight, obviously, as we all know, Romero had to pull out, and of all the people to step in on pretty much no notice whatsoever, it's Chris Camozzi, who was tapped out by Souza, and then dropped 2-3 straight afterwards, and was released, won a couple fights outside the UFC, and stepped up, came back. Kudos on him for doing this, because, I mean, Ronaldo Jacare Souza, I mean, is one of the top middleweights in the world for a reason. I mean, the guy's a freaking beast. And, as we all expected, Souza tapped out Camozzi again, this time with an armbar, and this time a lot faster than the last one. Camozzi's gonna get another fight, okay? He's lost, I don't know how many straight under the UFC banner, but, I mean, he took this on no notice whatsoever, and against an insanely dangerous opponent, he'll get another fight. Not a very big name at middleweight, but he'll get another fight. Not sure who. I've heard Roger Nervez get mentioned in that. And then, poor Jacare. I mean, if this was Romero, then I think he'd have a solid case, you know, that he should fight the champ, whether it be Weidman or Belfort, after 187. But that argument can't be made now. Well, you can make the argument, but I don't think it's as convincing in light of how the main event went. My feeling is I think they should still have that fight with Romero. I don't know how long it'll be out. I've heard Tim Kennedy get mentioned. I've heard, was it Dallas Leitis? I think I pronounced that wrong entirely, but you know who I mean. One of the guys who fought Anderson Silva way back when, and then came back and he looked a lot better now. But anyway, put Souza up against one of those. I mean, it's hard to tell. Poor guy, if he was fighting Romero and he beat Romero like that, yeah, I think there'd be a pretty strong case there. But what do you do? Dana White has already said he's not sure who's getting the next shot. We'll find out. Then the main event, which was Rockhold versus Machida. Luke Rockhold, the former Strikeforce middleweight champion, against Lyoto the Dragon Machida, who was, of course, the light heavyweight champion. He's going to be in the UFC Hall of Fame someday. That's not even a question. And the guy's amazing. He's fought the very best. He's beaten a lot of the very best. Guy's amazing. And Luke Rockhold completely destroyed him. Yeah, I can't make that up. And if you watched that fight, you would have been like, oh my god. He just made Machida look like... I mean, it'd be like putting John Jones against... It'd be like matching John Jones up with Justin Bieber. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm sorry. But it's like that bad. I mean, completely outmatched. Rockhold just destroyed Machida. First round, he's beating the hell out of him. And I'm pretty sure Joe Rogan, when they came back for the second round, he said he thought that Machida had concussion. And I know a lot of people said, if they were Machida's cornerman, they would have thrown in the towel after the first round because he was in no shape to go out there. And you know what? They were right. Second round, he gets beaten down, put in the ground. Rocco got his back, took him out with a rear naked choke. That's it. And that got him a $50,000 performance a night bonus, as did Max Holloway. Holloway's submission got $50,000 as well. But oh my god, Machida just looked like... I mean, he looked like he was like not even in Rockhold's league entirely. I mean, he looked bad. He looked absolutely bad. I don't know what you do with Machida. I mean, he's not even... At this point, he really needed that win, and I think he may have just seen whatever chance he had of maybe getting another shot at the title just go away. I think he'll stay in middleweight. I mean, he's good at middleweight. It's just he ran into a nightmare of a fighter. I think if Michael Bisping beats CB or loses to CB Dalloway this coming Saturday at UFC 186, I think you should do Machida versus Bisping. And they'll both be coming off back-to-back losses. But what do you do? I don't think it'd be a career-threatening one. I mean, even with 3 losses, nothing. They're not going to get rid of Machida or Bisping. It's just not going to happen. Maybe Machida gets the talk if he gets beaten down that badly again, but not that they're going away. And I think Rockhold should fight the winner of Weidman versus Belfort. I mean, that's not even a question. That's not even a question in my mind. I mean, I could make the argument maybe Romero should get it, but Romero also... Or, excuse me, Jacare Souza should get it, but if he fought Romero and beat him as badly as he did to Kamosi, then yeah, I would make that say, well, maybe it should be Jacare. So... Unfortunately, for him, it will be I think it will be Rockhold facing either Weidman or Bisping. I know Rockhold wants Weidman to win so they can face off in Madison Square Garden when and if they finally legalize professional MMA in the state of New York. And we'll see. So, UFC on Fox, Machida versus Rockhold, definitely, no, it was great. I mean, if I'm putting it up against the other UFC on Fox events, I'd say this is maybe a top 3. I think easily it's a top 3. I mean, including the prelims, because it was solid, top to bottom. I mean, it was not a bad fight of those 8 on the card that we got to see on Fox. So, yeah, I think this is probably one of the best 2 or 3 Fox cards. So we won't see them on Fox again until July, but that's going to be great. I mean, they've announced 3 fights already. Dillashaw versus Barao 2, that's going to be good. Finally, we're getting that one. Anthony Pettis returns after losing the lightweight championship. He'll take on Miles Jury. Miesha Tate versus Jessica Ai. Apparently, it's supposed to be a number 1 contender fight. I don't know. Are we expecting Miesha Tate to win a 3rd time and then maybe face and lose to Ronda Rousey for a 3rd time? I don't know. But they'll have announced more matches as we go on. We're ways away from July, though. 4 big pay-per-views coming up. Obviously, Saturday. Maybe not big, but it's not going to be a bad pay-per-view per se. Demetrius Johnson defends the flyweight championship against Kyoji Horiguchi. That should be... Oh, boy. Yeah, I think Mighty Mouse wins. Sorry, Horiguchi fans. I do think Mighty Mouse wins. I think this is too soon for Horiguchi. Bisping versus Dalloway should be good. I think anyway. And then at the end of May, you have UFC 187, 2 title fights. You have Jones versus Rumble Johnson for the light heavyweight championship, and we finally get Weidman versus Belfort for the middleweight belt. And you also have Khabib Nurmagomedov trying to stay undefeated as he goes up against the suddenly red-hot surging Cowboy Donald Cerrone. That fight will determine who faces Rafael dos Anjos for the lightweight championship later on. UFC 188, they will be in Mexico. We will finally get Cain Velasquez back in action after over a year. He will defend the heavyweight championship against interim heavyweight champion Fabricio Verdum. That's a unification match. And also Eddie Alvarez versus Gilbert Melendez. That should be pretty good. And of course UFC 179, which I don't think anyone's been able to escape that because of all the talk of Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo for the featherweight championship. That is gonna be insane. I don't know how that's gonna go. I know that everyone's got an opinion on it. You have diehards on both sides. Oh boy, it's gonna be interesting. And you're also gonna have the welterweight championship. Robbie Lawler defends it against Rory McDonald. It's a rematch from UFC 167. Lawler won that one by split decision. So we'll see. I think McDonald has refound the fire, his old fire now. I think he's doing great. We'll see how that matchup turns out. And also UFC 190. I forgot to mention UFC 190, so we'll have 5 good pay-per-views. UFC 190, Ronda Rousey versus Betcha Correa. If I remember right, they're talking Shogun versus Lil Nog. Stefan Struve versus Minotauro Nogueira. It's good stuff coming up in the next few months. And of course, some really good stuff on the Fight Night cards. I mentioned you have Cormier versus Bader in June. You have Gustafsson versus Teixeira in Germany. Faber versus Egger. Some good stuff coming up. So that's my review of UFC on Fox, Machida versus Rockhold. And I hope to be able to review some of the stuff again and give you my thoughts. So thank you for watching us if you're actually able to pay attention to this one. Thank you for watching this, and here's hoping that your drain is operable.